Hey, I'm Father Roderick, and today I want to talk about this little device, the DJI Osmo Pocket, which is a small gimbal with a camera included. It is really tiny and it is awesome for vlogging. However, there are some problems with it. So I'll give you my initial impressions. This episode is brought to you thanks to my patrons over at patreon.com/Father Roderick. If you want to help me with what I do and by help me with making more content, better content, then please take a look over at patreon.com/Father Roderick. So the DJI Osmo Pocket, it is perhaps the smallest device that DJI has made so far. DJI is a big company known specifically for their drones. They are, I think, the leading manufacturer of drones. Now, every drone, of course, not only has propellers so the little device can fly, but also has a camera so that you can film what you want to do up there in the sky. The camera that is normally attached to the drone is now brought to this gimbal. A gimbal is a little device that compensates for your shaky movements. It's very, very hard to keep a camera perfectly still. If you've ever tried to record video on your cell phone and you watched it afterwards, then unless your phone has optical image stabilization or sometimes digital image stabilization for cheaper cameras, then you will notice all the shakiness. And of course, if you want to produce something that is closer to broadcast quality, then you need to somehow compensate for those movements, those little camera shakes. The classic way to do that is to put the camera on a tripod, and the tripod itself stabilizes it enough. Of course, that will limit the possibilities. And nowadays, people want to make dynamic videos and move around. And so one way to get steady camera shots without using a tripod is a gimbal. And this must be one of the smallest gimbals out there. Let me fire it up. I just press, there are only a few buttons on it. I press the right one, and within seconds, the lens is there. And if I move the handle around, the camera itself will stay perfectly fixed. If I press the right button 3 times, then the camera swivels around and now is filming me. And it even has face detection. So it will make sure that my face is in focus and not the background. However, that brings me to the first issue that I have with the DJI Osmo Pocket. It's not always focusing on your face. And the thing is, there is a tiny little screen on the side of the device that is usually facing the person filming. That screen is really, really small, and so it is very hard to see if you're really still in focus or not. And I've tried this out on my bike the other day, and unfortunately, like half of the footage that I shot of myself while riding my bike was out of focus and blurry, and so it's not usable. Another issue that I discovered while filming on the bike was the audio. There is right underneath the screen is a tiny little hole, and it's just as small as usually the built-in microphone of your mobile phone. And it is or sometimes these cheaper photo cameras also have a small, tiny camera. It does record sound, but of course it is very prone to wind noise. And if you're on a bike, then there's plenty of that. So that made the audio also unusable. There are 2 ways to fix this, these 2 issues. Let's first talk about the issue of you filming yourself and you're not in focus. The best way to do that is to increase the distance between you and the camera. Now, I have my hand outstretched right now, and this is kind of the kind of let's say frame that I would like to see. The difference between, let's say, the DJI Osmo Pocket and for instance, a GoPro Hero camera is that the GoPros have a much wider angle. It's almost like a fisheye. It's got some distortion. But that means that if you stretch out your hand and you hold a GoPro, then you'll have plenty of space around your upper body, and it will always be in focus because it's such a wide angle. This camera has much more of a traditional angle, comparable to the selfie camera on most of the phones, except for the few ones like the Pixel, I think, that have a wide angle selfie camera. And so it means you have to extend the camera, and then you'll be more likely to be in focus. There is fortunately a small adapter that you can attach to the underside of the camera that will have let's say a hole that resembles like the hole that you'll find on most regular cameras as well. So you can put it on a small tripod or on a Gorilla Pod or something that will extend your reach a little bit without you kind of like stretching out and getting tired for holding the camera so far in front of you. So that is fixable, but of course then it will also mean that the screen is a little bit further away. So it will be even harder to see if things are in focus. The issue of the sound is also solvable, but you will need an external microphone. This device, because it's so small, only has a USB-C port on the bottom of the camera. I assume that they didn't have any other place to put it because it's so small, but it's a very inconvenient place, of course, for any adapter. Let's say if I want to put this on a tripod or a selfie stick or something like that, then it means that the port is blocked. So there are solutions for that, but if you only use this by holding it in your hand and you still want to have an external microphone, you need to buy an adapter from DJI. And we've been waiting 6 months for that adapter, and it's still sold out everywhere. I don't know why it has taken them so long. You'd think that they would have this ready on launch date, but that was not the case. And I'm still trying to figure out where I can buy that. It plugs into, it's just a tiny dongle. It plugs into the USB-C, and it has a 3.5 millimeter port on it. And then you can use, for instance, a Rode microphone to get much, much better sound. The adapter, the dongle, is super expensive. It's $39. And if you consider that this one is about $350, I think, $350, that is very expensive. It's like that's 10% of the overall price of the device. I assume that they've been cutting corners or trying to cut costs by leaving it out, but it is sorely missed. And it is, I would say this is unusable for vlogging without an external microphone. And so you have to take that into account. This would be a great device for parishes. A lot of parishes have a website, have a social media presence, and they would like to do stuff like interviews or impressions of celebrations or whatever. What the advantage of this is that you can have very stable, good quality 4K video, really good color-wise, resolution-wise, and with an external microphone you would have decent sound as well. But the advantage is anyone can use this. So you don't have to buy super complicated big cameras. You're also avoiding the problem of what I sometimes see when I watch parish videos is the shaky stuff that people recorded on their phone. This is something that will give your followers really stable, good quality video, and it would still be a reasonable investment because this can be used on the fly. You just have to charge it. It has a small SD card, like a mini SD card. Those are not very expensive either. It even has a small, you may be wondering, there's a tiny plug, like a dongle attached to the device itself. I can detach it. And this is an interface so that you can attach the camera, the Pocket, to a phone, and it can either be an iPhone or an Android phone with a USB-C connector. And then on the phone, you can use the phone as a bigger view screen, which is very useful. And it also gives you access to way more functionality. You can set the frame rate, aperture, and it becomes like a manual, like a remote control to put everything on manual instead of automatic. DJI is still improving this device. You can update the firmware from time to time. It will give you new functionality. And this is just version 1. Perhaps in the future we will see like an updated version that will offer even more bang for your buck. So I would highly recommend this, but you have to keep in mind the few problems that I mentioned. Do you have any reactions to this? Are you contemplating getting one for yourself? Do you use other stuff to film your vlogs or parish videos? Do you have any tips? Let me know in the comments. And for now, thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Thanks for the privilege of your time, and we'll talk soon. Take care and God bless.